Okay, hey guys, what's up? I'm back with a new video about Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the legendary, iconic of all time, the greatest pop star that ever lived. That people are starting to believe these accusers. Now, this is just unbelievable. They need to let Michael rest. The last video I done, where McCorky Cullen gave news, where he stood up for Michael Jackson, and he said Michael Jackson never did anything. And then there's people saying, well, he couldn't have done it in McCorky Cullen. He could have done it in other little kids. But people seem to forget that there's no evidence or no proof that Michael Jackson did it to other kids. It's just really stupid. They will find anything to pick up to say that Michael Jackson did it, to try and ruin him, to try and wreck his reputation, to try and destroy him. There's awful comments, talking about Michael Jackson where it's just totally disturbing and it's just totally horrific. It's just disgusting. I mean, talking about a guy who is deceased, who's been gone for 10 years, and I heard that there was an autopsy that they did on Michael Jackson, so another autopsy. What did they do? Did they open his coffin? Did they do another autopsy on the body of what they were trying to find or whatever? It's just unbelievable. The way I look at it, the man, if he hadn't have died, I mean, he could have been here to defend himself because, like the last video I done there, of McCorky Cullen defending Michael Jackson, I thought it would have ended there, but no. It's just going to go on and on and on and on. It can't get any more pathetic. It's just, I mean, I seen a video there, people starting to believe these accusers, and there's people saying that Michael Jackson did it. People are saying that Michael Jackson did it. People are believing these accusers because of the Leaving Neverland rubbish. But we wouldn't be stupid enough to, to believe a man, who has proved his innocence years ago, that there was no evidence, there was no proof, there was nothing against Michael Jackson. And that's why no one has, that no one has the right to believe that he did do it, because he didn't do it. So there's nothing. That's why, I mean, a lot of people believe that he did do it because Michael Jackson was with little kids. Michael Jackson never had a childhood, and that's why people are starting to believe these accusers, because the only reason why people are starting to believe these accusers is because of the Leaving Neverland. That's one of it. And because Michael Jackson invited them to Leaving Neverland years ago, because Michael Jackson never had a childhood, he just wanted to be, a kid, because all that Michael Jackson did all of his life was music because of his father. So Michael Jackson never had a childhood. So that's where people need to go into the, into the details and all that there before they open their mouth, because anybody could say anything and they're wrong, because anybody would believe and say yeah, because of the Leaving Neverland. People that really need to search up, things from years ago of Michael Jackson, from the court case, and from way back in the 90s and in the late 80s. So will we ever know that Michael Jackson did it? No, because there's no evidence. That's the thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know why people are starting to believe these accusers. They always have an excuse, and they just don't know when to stop. And they'll never stop. This will go on forever. Michael Jackson will never rest. This will go on forever until they get their claim that Michael Jackson did it, which is totally ridiculous, because they're wasting their time. They're spending money, suing the Jacksons, over what? There's nothing to go against the man, there's nothing there to say that he did do it, because, you know what I mean? But guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. These people, starting to believe the accusers, and they're not starting to believe Michael Jackson. But if you guys think that Michael Jackson is innocent, let me know in the comments. And people who don't think that he's innocent, let me know in the comment and let me know why you don't think he's innocent. And I'll try and comment back as best as I could to answer your question, because it's just, I would be the one to say that if someone did something, if they did it. And I've looked up a lot of things about Michael Jackson, and there's nothing there, nothing. That's what I don't. That's what I don't understand. There's nothing there. Do you know what I mean? So if there was something there, I would have an opinion and a turnaround. But I don't have no turnaround or opinion or anything, because the man has done nothing, and I have nothing to go against the man that he had did anything, because I don't have no proof or no evidence to see if someone did something disgusting to somebody. I have no reason to not to believe someone who's accused of things that something he didn't do. So that's why I believe Michael Jackson still, because there's nothing there. I still believe Michael Jackson's innocent, because I can't find anything or nothing to say that Michael Jackson did it. And there's no point of searching up or looking for anything, because Michael Jackson already proved his way in the court case of 2005. He was, not guilty on all charges, 14 counts. So people really need to wake up and realize that Michael Jackson was the legendary king of pop, the greatest superstar who ever lived, and he's the king of pop. And why can't they just live on his music and his memories instead of living on the bad stuff about the guy? Because you know what I mean? It's just really getting old. It's really getting boring, and it's never going to end. This will go on forever. We all know that Michael Jackson didn't do it. We all know that the accusers could be telling the truth or not. But we all know that the accusers are lying, because we have no belief to believe them if they are telling the truth, because there are so many lies and there is so many slip-ups about the Leaving Neverland and other things. It's just going to go on forever, because Michael Jackson was a huge celebrity. He was the greatest superstar in the world, and I'll never let the man rest. It's all money, no matter what they say. Oh, it's not money, or it's not for money, it's for looking justice. Of course it's for money, because they're going to get paid for it anyway, for whatever they're doing, because it's just, I don't know, you know what I mean, guys? It's never going to end. It's just ridiculous, They can't let the man rest in peace, It's just, they don't care, you know what I mean? And another thing as well, when they defended Michael Jackson in the court case of 2005, you know what I mean? Said that Michael Jackson never did anything to them, and now they're coming out saying that Michael Jackson did it. It's just, to this day, and since a while back, they have removed statues of Michael Jackson. They've tried to stop his music, which they failed. It's just, it's never going to end. You know what I mean, guys? I could go on forever. I mean, I've read the book of The Most Shocking Death of Michael Jackson, of what really happened to Michael Jackson, and it's quite interesting, but we're still not getting no answer of what happened. It's only saying of what could happen or what did happen, but we're not getting the story of that it did happen, of what happened to Michael Jackson, what happened in the final hours of Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson was, getting ready for the This Is It World Tour. But when Michael Jackson made the announcement for the tour, the final curtain call, it was because he died after that final curtain call, after he made his announcement to the fans that he will be doing one more tour for the last time, and then Michael Jackson passed. So it was the last time we ever saw Michael Jackson, which he called the final curtain call, because when you think of it, it was the final curtain call, because when the curtain closed, Michael Jackson was dead, and that was it. That was the last time we ever saw him. You know what I mean? And then when we seen the This Is It movie, where Michael Jackson was, performing for the show, we seen everything in the movie, what Michael Jackson was getting ready to do, but Michael Jackson never made it. He died, he passed on, and later on we got we had the funeral, and then we got the movie released of This Is It, and we watched it, and we got to see something better instead of the world tour. We got to see more of the man, of what he was like, what he could do, and you know what I mean. We got to see that Michael Jackson was telling the dancers and the singers what to do, and all that there, that Michael Jackson, knew what he was doing. He was the boss of all the dancers, the singers. When you watch the This Is It, the This Is It was amazing. Yes, there was no tour. It was a letdown. It would have been great to see Michael Jackson in front of our eyes, but guys, we seen the movie and we got to see something better. We got to see the genius of Michael Jackson, and I'm right what I'm saying, because it's just one of those things. It's a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. You know what I mean? But in another one of my books, Michael Jackson, the Master of Illusions, of the Last Days of Michael Jackson. It's a good book. I've only read some of it, but it is good. I have done a video of it talking about it, and I've showed you guys the book of what it's like, and it's really good. It's one of my best books of Michael Jackson. I've only got about 3 or 4 books of Michael Jackson, and I've got a couple of CDs. I've got the This Is It movie. The This Is It movie is my favorite. I like it because watching Michael Jackson perform, singing and rehearsing was outstanding. He was great for his age. He was healthy, but we're never going to know what really happened. When Michael Jackson died the night before, when he was doing Thriller and Earth Song on June 24th, and then the next day, Michael Jackson was dead. It's just, it'll never make sense. I don't think we're ever going to get, the evidence or who really killed Michael Jackson. We know it was Conrad Murray that was responsible, but someone was there. That's what it says in one of my books. Someone was there in Michael Jackson's home, and it could have been a setup. You know what I mean? It could have been anything. It could have been someone could have killed, and someone could have dosed Michael Jackson while he was on propofol. When Dr. Conrad Murray gave him 25 milligrams of propofol when he left the room for hours. Then he said he only left the room for 2 minutes, which there's 2 different storylines there. That Conrad Murray said he left the room for 2 minutes, and then there's another story there where he was on the phone for over an hour, talking to girlfriends or whoever, instead of watching Michael Jackson. And that's why Michael Jackson died, because Conrad Murray wasn't there. And that's the thing behind it. We're never going to know what happened when he left the room. We're never going to know what happened to Michael Jackson. That's the $1 million question. What happened? Who was there when Conrad Murray left the room? You know what I mean? That's the $1 million question. And I'm very surprised that there was no cameras in Jackson's home. Well, there was cameras, but I don't think there was any upstairs where he died. But I do know that there was a tape that could have convinced of what happened to Michael Jackson, and that tape went missing. But did it went missing? I don't know. I don't believe if it did. But I know that tape is the billion question answer of what happened to Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? But and then there's the other chapter of where Michael Jackson could have faked his death as well. So there's so many conspiracies, So I said everything I wanted to say, basically, but it's just never going to end. It's just there's this and there's that. There's the stories of Michael Jackson faked his death. There's stories of what happened to Michael Jackson in the final hours. There's stories about Michael Jackson that people saying that he was this and he was that. There's other stories where they tried to stop his music. They took away his statues. You know what I mean? With the man not here to defend himself, which is just totally ridiculous. It's just never going to end. It's nearly 11 years. You know what I mean? And it's just, why would anybody want to just try and destroy him even more? It's not like if he died like a year ago and then they proven it from there. But no, they waited all these years and then now trying to destroy him. It's just, why not after his death? Why not before his death? But no, rather do it, after his death instead of before his death, because they knew they wouldn't have a chance. And it's been told to this day, if Michael Jackson was here right now, this tragedy wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have been no Leaving Neverland. There wouldn't have been nothing like that, because Michael Jackson would have took them on again in court. And do I believe that Michael Jackson would have won it? I do, because there's so many lies and there's so many slip-ups. There's so many, stupid, clips, videos, more rubbish, everything about this Leaving Neverland. You know, I've never watched it, but I've heard about it. You know, and it's how can they just say like that Michael Jackson did it and he's not here? You know what I mean? Instead of doing all this here before he died, you know, it's just, and it does make sense because it's just, they're cowards. You know, they could have done this while he was alive, you know, or they could have done it years ago while they were taking Michael Jackson on trial in 2005. But no, they stood by Michael Jackson. They said, you know, that Michael Jackson never did anything. You know, and my dad always believed that Michael Jackson never did it. You know, so that's it, guys. That's all I have to say in this video. You know, Michael Jackson innocent. If you guys don't think that Michael Jackson is innocent, that's fine. But there's always going to be two worlds. There's going to be half of the world where Michael Jackson is being hated, and there's the other half of the world that Michael Jackson has his, you know, his fans of, you know, of his support and love of us defending Michael Jackson. So you have two different types of worlds, or the half of the world, the good world, and the other world is the hateful world. You know what I mean? So it works both ways. You know, if they want to carry us on forever, that's fine. But I really don't think there will be anything breaking news that we'll get one day that, you know, to say that Michael Jackson did do it. They found evidence, you know, because I don't think they'll ever will, and because it's just no, I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening, guys. You know. But anyway, that's all I have to say for this video, guys. Okay, take care. Peace.